here we go. Hi everybody, this is William with the Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series on YouTube, and I'm in France today, in Issy-les-Moulineaux. Did I say it right?
Hello, my friends.
Outside of Paris. This is my good friend Alfred Bruyère. He's a trained actor, but he's also very knowledgeable about the Second World War, the First World War. Oh, this is hard. I'm not using my usual tripod. I'm trying to hold this selfie stick up. And I've got to read too. So I'm going to read 3 Dmitri Diary entries from 1940. And then I'm going to talk to Alfred about the Winter War, which was what Dmitri was following very closely, as you know, in February 1940. Okay, so here's our recap. In the last video, Dmitri was doing a lot of letter writing and writing to some friends of his, the Mazuchis, and some other friends, who had this, can you pronounce this name correctly?
D'Erlanger.
Okay, and I say something like D'Erlanger, I don't know. Okay, so he pronounced it correctly. So those 2 families, and also Prince Andreas of Greece, his uncle, and he talked about how the Finns were just overwhelmed at that time, and how he expected a catastrophe at any time. Okay, so we start with the 18th of February 1940, which was a Saturday. Dmitri says, postcard number 5 to Polly, letters to Nanny, letter to Kaziol. The weather is overcast again, it's snowing and very windy. One cannot be on the balcony. Bad news from Finland. Mannerheim's first line of defense has been occupied by the Reds. Is this really the beginning of the end? And he puts a question mark and an exclamation point. Just a reminder, I'm sure you already know that he was writing this from Davos, Switzerland, from the sanatorium Schatzalp. Okay, 19th February 1940, Sunday, frightful snow, impossible to go outside. Lunched at Dr. Maurer's, it was very nice. Reggie and Giselle were there. Spent the afternoon in bed, of course. Nothing new from Finland at the moment, just confirmation that the first line of forts has been taken and the Finns have withdrawn to the blank, I can't make out that word. The Swedes are refusing to help the Finns. I don't understand. And then finally, the diary entry of 20th February 1940, Monday, letters, K. Norton, Vsevolod, overcast weather, wind and frightful snow. Naturally, one cannot go out. Torbrik came to see me at 5 o'clock. He's going back to London tomorrow. Okay, so before we talk about Finland, we can start with the people he mentioned. So one is Polly's nanny, who'd gone with him temporarily to America. She was an Irish woman, Nanny Hickling. I think I've mentioned before that Dmitri loved her corned beef when she cooked it. And she and Polly lived in a little house, or had lived in a little house out in the vicinity of his boarding school in England. But now she'd gone to the US with him temporarily. He was 12 or 13, so he didn't really need a nanny anymore. Kaziol means goat, and that has sometimes been Alfred's nickname in his family. Well, everybody in the family is, all the male members of the family are called goat sometimes, right?
Yeah, right.
Your dad too?
You're right. Oh, of course. Especially
Okay.
my dad.
Okay, so Kaziol was his nickname. His real name was Kazyaninov. And next, yeah, this is interesting. Dmitri said on the Sunday that he had lunch at Dr. Maurer's house, Dr. Maurer and his wife. Maurer was the chief doctor at Schatzalp, and he lived next door in a villa called the Villa Guarda. And I'm sure he didn't invite all his patients to come and have lunch with him and his wife at the Villa Guarda, but Dmitri was one of the lucky ones. And there were, the Porbricks were there, Giselle and Reggie. And Reggie had been at Schatzalp for quite a long time, but much earlier. I think in the early 20s or 30s, I should have checked that. But this isn't the only time that Dmitri will be invited over to the Villa Guarda. And Maurer kind of had a reputation as a tyrant, but he was good with patients, especially if he saw they were a little depressed. He would go out of his way, not only with Dmitri, but with other patients to sort of improve their moods. So you remember, let's see, Yeah, Kay Norton. I don't know who she was. Her husband's name was Richard Norton. I don't know anything else about them. Prince Vsevolod Romanov was the son of Prince Ioan Romanov, who is the son of Grand Duke Konstantin Konstantinovich. And Ioan, unfortunately, was killed by the Bolsheviks, along with Dmitri's aunt, Ella, and Dmitri's half-brother. And so Vsevolod was born in 1914, so he was a very little boy when his father was killed, and he grew up in England, I believe. And he was 26 at the time that Dmitri was writing to this letter to him, as I guess, an older member of the family. And yeah, then we find out that Reggie was leaving for London, but his wife Giselle was staying. Did I say that right? How
Yeah.
do you say that name? Okay.
Giselle.
Okay, now we're ready to talk about the Winter War. And I'm going to see if I can move this in a little closer because my arms are getting tired. Okay, let's see. So, I'll just recap what Dmitri had said before about the Winter War. So on the 16th, he said, from Finland, the Finns are holding on, but there's still a frightful battle going on. The Mannerheim, a frightful battle going on. Oh, I accidentally erased something. Something about the Mannerheim line that has not yet been broken. Okay, on the 17th, alarming news from Finland, though the Finns are holding on, but that can't last for long. The numbers overwhelmingly favor the Reds, and there will be a catastrophe. Then on the 18th, bad news from Finland. Mannerheim's first line of defense has been occupied by the Reds. Is this really the beginning of the end? And finally, nothing new from Finland at the moment, just confirmation that the first line of forts has been taken and the Finns have withdrawn to the blank. The Swedes are refusing to help the Finns. I don't understand. Okay, so my first question to you, Alfred, is what do you think about the information Dmitri is getting? Because he's listening to the radio, he's reading newspapers. If you were there with him at Schatzalp, would you think, oh, he's getting good, truthful information? Or would you think maybe it sounds to you like the information isn't so great?
No, I think the information is great, but unfortunately he's talking only about Mannerheim line. I know there are maybe 2 or 3 more lines, defensive line that Finn soldiers created.
Okay.
And hold for a long time. But yeah, maybe it's the most important line.
Okay.
So I think he's right. I don't know exactly the date when Mannerheim's line broke, but I guess he's right. And at this time of period, it was so difficult to have some really good information.
Yeah.
Because of the censor.
Yeah. Yeah, he was probably reading, I would guess he was probably reading British newspapers if he could get them, and maybe the French-Swiss newspapers, and listening to the French-Swiss radio because he spoke French fluently, and I don't think he spoke German fluently. So that's where he'd be getting his information from. Okay, and so he refers to the Mannerheim line and the first line of forts. So is that what the Mannerheim line was? It was sort of forts, or was it just like a line of regiments that were holding?
Well, Finn soldiers created lots of trenches, and I guess there were some forts in Mannerheim's line, because they were, the number of the soldiers were fewer than the Soviet Union soldiers, so luckily for them they were forts. So for the who were helping them for the defense, and lots of trenches to counter the Soviet soldier attacks.
Okay, and when Dmitri says this on the 18th of February, he says, he asks, is this really the beginning of the end? If you were there and he asked you that question, what would you say?
Well, the Soviet Union broke through, so I would say yes, I think it's the end, but I wouldn't want to believe it because Finn soldiers were so brave, so good in defense, that a part of me would wanted that the war could continue and that the Finn soldier could find a way to get out of this very bad news. But unluckily for them, there are fewer. They have not such a good materials comparing to the Soviet soldiers or Soviet army. So I guess when the Soviet soldiers broke through, it was almost the end, because less than 1 month later the war stopped.
Okay. Well, and then he asked this question. He says the Swedes are refusing to help the Finns. I don't understand. So I talked to a friend in Davos who's a historian, though not a he's Swedish. He's not a specialist on the Winter War, but he knows a lot about it. And since he's Swedish, he was coming to the defense of the Swedes and saying, well, it's true that they didn't, they didn't officially support the Finns, but that a lot of Swedish men volunteered. And a lot of Swedish men were killed fighting for Finland. So Dmitri it seems like he was wrong about that. The Swedish government, maybe they felt like they couldn't help. I don't know. I mean, the British and the French governments, right, kind of felt like they couldn't help, right? Because they wanted the alliance with Russia. Is that correct?
Yeah, French and English government, I guess, they didn't want to help Finland because first, they didn't want a Second World War. Second, a war against Soviet Union would be a disaster because it was on 1940. So the war, the Finland and Soviet Union war, happened after the English and French declared war on Germany. So that would have been two big states against England and France.
Okay, that makes sense.
And as we know, France and England were very, very poor, and it would have been a disaster because they didn't fully recover from the First World War.
Okay.
So they didn't want a war against one of the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Plus, Finland is far from France and England, so they could have sent, of course, some soldiers or some materials, but they would have been sent by sea, and as we know, German submarines sunk so much furnitures, so much English or American furnitures between the two world wars.
Yeah.
So that would have been very costly for France and United Kingdom.
Okay.
And maybe they didn't want that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And was there something going on in Norway at this time, or was this later or earlier? I know I should have asked you about that earlier, so you could check, but.
Yeah, well, I can check.
I mean, this is, at the moment, this is the only thing that Dmitri seems to be watching. He's not talking about other parts of the war. And, people called it in English the phony war because not much was going on. And that would be changing in May, right? That was when the Blitzkrieg would come and shock everybody. But I think what you're saying is very true. The Allies were still hoping they could be... that they could get an alliance with Russia, and they were, as you say, it would have been disastrous for them to expand the war. But let me ask you this: was anybody helping Finland at this time? Were the Germans helping Finland?
No, I don't think so, because I don't think they were truly allies.
Okay.
But and I guess Hitler wanted to see what was going on in Finland and see how strong could be Soviet Union, because he already planned, I guess, to invade them because he hated the communists. But the Swedish helped them a little bit, but also they didn't want to get really involved and to get attacked by Soviet Union, because it would have been a disaster for them too.
Yeah, okay. So Stalin must have understood this, that it would be very difficult for anybody to come and help Finland. So it was the perfect opportunity for him to attack Finland.
Of course.
Okay, so you told me the war ended, well, the peace was signed on March 13th.
Yeah, 1940.
So, as you said, a little less than a month after Dmitri was writing this.
Yeah.
And you told me about an interesting book you have just read. And it's a nonfiction book, but it's based very strongly on a real historical person, right?
Yeah.
And, okay, so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So this book title is The Soldier's Winter, who is talking about the war between Soviet Union and Finland, and it's written by Olivier Norek, and it's about the sniper who killed more than 500 Soviet soldiers. Yeah, that's a lot in what, 4 months.
Yeah.
So we're following his life. So at first, it's not the war who is happening, but he's living in a little town. I can't remember the name, but he will be called and recruited by the army, and he's forced to do it.
Okay.
And he's going with his friends, and we have his thought. We have some explanations of how he feels the war, how his friends feel the war, the killing he did.
Okay. Yeah.
The horror of this war.
Yeah.
And the complications the Soviet Union had to conquer the Finland.
Okay. And you told me that the real person survived the war.
Yeah.
And did he ever do any interviews or talk about it?
Well, I guess he talked about it because there is a book about him.
Oh, okay.
I think he talked about it. I think he moved to Australia after the war.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm not sure, but yeah, he was still alive. Can I get? And to answer your question, my friend, Norway has been invaded on April 9th, 1940.
Ah, so it hadn't happened yet. So this was really the first, after the invasion of Poland, that was kind of stalled? This was the next big event then. The Winter War was kind of the next big event that people were watching very closely.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And we talked about the victory of the Soviet Union, and that it was kind of it wasn't really a very impressive victory. So can you talk about that and what Dmitri didn't know yet, but what we know is how it turned out?
Yeah. So it's been said that Soviet Union won the war. I'm not so sure about this, because they only gained, when the Moscow Treaty was signed, they only gained 9% of Finland territory.
Okay,
that's not a lot.
Not a lot.
Especially when you know the intention of Stalin, who was to conquer all the Finland.
Yeah.
Plus,
because it had been part of the Russian Empire, and he wanted it back.
Yeah.
So.
He didn't like the independence of Finland.
Yeah.
Plus, there were so much dead in the side of Soviet Union, maybe 5 times more than the Finnish soldiers.
Wow.
So I can't call this a victory when you're up material and in soldiers, but you're losing more than your opponent.
Okay, you're winning just because you have more men and equipment, not because. Okay.
Yeah, and Finland couldn't just continue the war.
Right.
And they stopped the war because they wanted to have voice during those negotiations.
Yeah,
Not
okay.
like for the Versailles Treaty in 1990,
Yeah,
or not
not-
like in Rotonde on June 22nd, 1940, between the French army and the Nazis.
Yeah, okay.
They wanted to have a voice, and yeah, they said, okay, we lost the war, but we want. They wanted to have a voice and to have some arguments,
Yeah, and they still survived as a country.
and they survived.
So yeah, that 9% loss, did they get that back after the war, or was that incorporated into the Soviet Union still? Or
I think no, I think it was incorporated to Soviet Union, but I think maybe they headed back after the collapse of Soviet Union.
yeah, we'll have to look into that. That would be interesting to know because yeah, I'm sure since the Soviet Union was part of the Allies in the Second World War, then I'm sure Churchill and Hoover and they were not saying, "Oh, okay, you have to give this back to Finland."
No,
Unfortunately.
that would be one more attention that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
didn't want.
Okay, but they survived. Finland, as a country, they still survive, and let's hope they always do survive. Let's hope.
Yeah, that Russia and Putin
Yeah.
don't invade Finland.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see. Trying to think if there's anything else. I wish I had you every day because Dmitri is talking all the time now in his diary entries for 1940. Every day there's something new that he's talking about in the war, and especially when the Blitzkrieg comes in May. He and everybody else will be shocked, and they'll be talking about that nonstop and trying to get accurate information. So you would be a useful person to have around. But I'm heading back to the United States tomorrow. So this was great to be able to have you on
Yeah,
the
that was
show.
great.
And
great.
I think I have some viewers in Finland that will probably love hearing what a young Frenchman has to say about it, and that he's knowledgeable about it and cares about it. So, yeah, so I guess that's all for today. So thank you, Alfred.
Thank you, William.
And yeah, I'll see all of you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.